And I want to kick things off here too, just with a quick fun thing. Because guys, I don't know about you. Did you guys? What was your? Because I got mine. I'm gonna pull it up. But what was your guys' like favorite April Fool's joke that you saw? There were a couple good ones that I saw some people posting. Primarily like organizations that like did some pretty good ones. Like Wowhead. It had a really good one about the like a new like Mountain Wow was coming out, but it was like it was this huge big thing. It was completely fake. And they even like they literally like rendered this thing and like had like an animation with like a dude on it and stuff. If you don't play WoW, you'll have no idea what I'm talking about. But it was a really good one. You guys had any good ones?
I just saw a lot of really good like fake ads. I can't even like remember for what off the top of my head, but there's always really good like fake products, and they're always usually just like completely off the wall.
Right. Good stuff.
Yeah, I can't remember any specifically. I saw quite a bit of different ones. It was actually, we're going to talk about the one news story later, and I'll mention it when we get to it. But there was one news story I saw where I thought, okay, well, it's April 1st. You know, clearly this is just an April Fool's joke, and it turned out it wasn't. And I just thought, why in the world would you release that news that day? Like all the news organizations should know April 1st is not the day to release a serious news story.
Yeah,
So.
that's the thing. When a lot of news was dropping on April 1st, I was like dumbfounded as to like why people weren't like explicitly saying at the top like this is not an April Fool's joke.
Yeah,
Like, you know what I mean?
clarify that.
Like it literally like baffled me because like everything I came across, I was like I couldn't take it seriously. Like
Yeah.
what is kind of annoying. Like I was actually annoyed as to why some journalists and like sites out there weren't like really affirming the fact that it wasn't an April Fool's joke, because the people who post the April Fool's joke, like the one I'm going to pull up, which is my personal favorite, it was like the first one I saw too. They don't specify, I don't think they don't specify in the article that it is an April Fool's joke. So when you have people out there posting these things that are explicitly meant for April Fools, but then you have real stories who aren't at least notifying people that it's not,
Right.
it gets kind of confusing out there. I'm going to pull up here because this one, I'm actually surprised I didn't hear. And granted, I don't get on social media all that often, but when I saw this, I thought it was hilarious. But I was really curious as to what the given the global climate right now of what this relates to. I'm surprised I didn't hear about like a lot of backlash and just like I'm surprised this thing didn't blow up. And this one was what was this from? Comicbookmovie.com posted this thing on April Fool's, obviously, saying that the Justice League sequels are now officially announced, and they even go as far as saying, what was her name, Ann Sarnoff or whoever the Warner Brothers CEO, her name is
Ann Sarnoff.
I think, yeah. They quote her and they like have like a statement on here like from what she said, like we simply didn't realize how much of a demand there was for Zack's take on Justice League, and like the Restore the Snyderverse movement showed us the error of our ways, you know. Like it was good, but I was actually shocked, and like granted, like I said, I don't pay much attention to social media. I'm not on it at all, so maybe this did rub a lot of people the wrong way, but you know the camp of the Restore the Snyderverse camp, who we'll just say is like a little bit more toxic than like some others out there. I'm surprised there wasn't some huge uproar of it. Maybe I missed
backlash,
it though. Yeah, did you guys like see this blow up at all anywhere, or was like because I just saw it, thought it was hilarious, and like sent it to you guys.
I saw it on Facebook, like it just popped up in my news feed, but I knew, I was like, it's April 1st, it's bullshit.
As soon as I saw it, I was like, "There's no fucking way this is real." Like, there's just no way it's real. And I was like, "Oh yeah, it's April 1st. It's totally fake." So yeah, because I didn't like dupe me or anything. I just instantly was just like, "What is this?" And then obviously I saw the date and I was like, "Okay, yeah, that's what I thought."
Yeah, I mean, there's a way to do April Fool's jokes, and then there's, you know, whatever. Congratulations to them for, I'm sure, getting lots of clicks on this. I don't know what the backlash was, you know, about it. Like, the one thing I thought about this article was like, it was written in a way that it doesn't like. I don't know. To me, there's a way to do April Fool's jokes. If you're going to do one, all the more power to you. Let's have fun with it. But make it a clear April Fool's joke. Be as sarcastic as you can be with it. Like they should have had the Ann Sarnoff comment should have been like, "Oh my God, like I'm thinking about choosing a new career because of how poorly I judged what the fan demand was for this. Instead, it was a pretty boilerplate, which would have sounded like something somebody in her position would have said if they had to reverse course and actually did bring the movies out. So on the one hand, I get it. It's it was clever on their part, especially given the timing of it. But on the other hand, too, I was like, if they do get blowback, it's kind of deserved too, because they really didn't play up the joke aspect of it. Like they were like I felt to me like they were legit trying to trick people and get people's hopes up, only for them to then be dashed, which
Right.
is maybe a step too far in my opinion for what you do on April Fools. Like April Fools is you joke around with people, sure, but it is just a joke. It's not intentionally meant to, because there are a lot of people that are you just look at the number of people that supported that and got the Justice League cut, Snyder's cut, put back on in the first place. Like those people, I'm sure aren't real happy that they're being made fun of by this second rate movie site. So
Yeah,
we'll
true.
see.
I will say I'll give them this much. They teeter the line, because on like this line right here that they say Sarnoff said, where it says, the hashtag restore the Snyderverse movement showed us the error of our ways, and when his legions of fans proved their passion and dedication by hijacking our hashtag stop Asian hate hashtag, well, we just knew we couldn't ignore them any longer.
Okay, that I didn't see that part.
Yeah, that one,
that is a
like,
little, that plays it up a little
yeah,
more.
a little bit more.
Yeah.
Like, but I mean, let's be real here. There's so many people out there who don't read the article to begin with.
Sure.
They just read the headline. Like this thing,
I'm a
this
good
thing has
example of that.
36K shares, right? More than likely, I'd say easily 75% of them, they just saw the headline and shared it.
I'm guilty of just reading headlines, unfortunately.
Oh yeah, you do it all the time.
I know, and I'll drop it in Discord, and it's like something totally not.
That's the thing. You always want to follow the source.
I just see it, and I'm like, what?
Yeah, take a peek in the article first before, because like I feel like if anybody was like super duped by this, like this line, where it kind of gives it away a little bit, but there are people out there who still wouldn't get the sarcasm from that.
No,
like they wouldn't get it. They would literally just think it's like a normal statement. But either way, I thought it was funny. Whether or not it was, not that like I support restore the Snyderverse. I want to see it go on. So don't get me wrong like that. I'm not saying it's funny that like they got them or anything. I just thought it was a funny, well-timed article on their part, because of the, like you said, like the Snyderverse thing's kind of popping off. So it was like, it was a good job. It was a good April Fool's joke to do. So the only other thing, completely unrelated to April Fool's, but is in line with Snyder cut here, that I thought was interesting at the very least, was Joe Manganiello. He had an ET interview here, and you can, if you don't want to read it, there is a video with it, but I'm gonna like talk just about like there's like two things that I found kind of interesting that he sort of confirms, and then something that kind of goes against like a lot of the reports that we've pretty much had about the future of like the Snyderverse and Justice League 2 and all that ever since the theatrical cut came out. So in this article, he goes on to and actually confirms like 100% that Deathstroke's initial plans, like he was casted to be the villain explicitly in Ben Affleck's Batman movie from day one. He confirms that was always the plan. That's where he got casted. He wasn't like casted for Justice League or anything like that. He was cast for that. Then they had the idea to shoot that scene to explicitly set up Batman. Ben Affleck's Batman. So what you see in like the Snyder cut, that dialogue between him and Lex Luthor at the end of the film, that's how it was originally. And then what was in the theatrical cut, where they set up Justice League 2, essentially, that was like thrown in after the fact. But what's interesting, like, because if you remember in that was just, that alone I thought was a good little tidbit that's like been confirmed 100%. That was the plans for Deathstroke, and I'm bummed that we're not going to get that movie. There's more on that in a minute. But the other thing, which I find actually, I'm going to say it again, you're going to get annoyed by it, most interesting about this article, or this interview, was he goes on to say that that scene got cut from the movie, which we know it got cut from the movie because we didn't see that scene, like setting up the Batman part, until Snyder Cut came out. So he was just told that the scene was cut. They weren't going to use it anymore because they weren't going to do the movie and like blah, blah, blah. But then like shortly before Justice League theatrical cut came out, or Justice League, whichever one you want to call it, he got a call from one of the studio executives that said, they told him that the scene was retooled. And it was retooled explicitly, in Joe's words, to set up Justice League 2. And if you know the scene where it's him and Lex Luthor in the theatrical cut, when Lex says, it kind of cheesily says, maybe it's time we have a league of our own or whatever, in Justice League or Legion of Doom kind of thing, whichever you want to call it. But what's weird about that is if you remember, even as far back as the theatrical cut of Justice League, there were reports, like numerous reports over the years, that like they were done with the Justice League. They weren't going to do a sequel, all this stuff, like even now, like they've confirmed even since the Snyder Cut came out, they're not moving forward with more. They've recently referred to the whole Snyderverse itself as a cul-de-sac. It's Snyder Cut of Justice League was a one-shot thing, etc. But it's a little bit contradictory because back in 2017, it was 2017, 2016, whichever year it was, I think it was 2017, when Justice League came out, Joe was explicitly called and told that scene was retooled for Justice League 2. So they actually did, at least some executives at Warner Brothers actually did have plans to move forward with Justice League in some capacity. Now, whether or not that would have been with Zack or, with Joss or another director, who knows? But I found it quite interesting that, it's contradictory. I found it interesting. They did have plans to do Justice League 2, which makes sense because, like I said, if you see the scene, he does the whole tease for, Legion of Doom or whatever, but I don't know, it was pretty much like as soon as that movie came out, we were told it was dead. Like Ben Affleck left, they weren't going to do it anymore, all this stuff. So, and then obviously the last thing that they kind of confirmed, or he confirms in this article, is there were rumors and reports a while back that they were trying to do a Deathstroke solo film in lieu of the Ben Affleck Batman movie getting canceled. And I'm really disappointed about this. This is the part I'm most disappointed about. They had, at the time, Gareth Evans, which, if you're not familiar with Gareth Evans, he was a director of The Raid and The Raid 2, which was just some very intense choreographed fighting movies. Really good. Go check them out. But Joe and Gareth Evans were trying to get a solo Deathstroke movie made. So it would have been like the absolute most amazing, like just brutal Deathstroke movie. Like if you could imagine John Wick, but it's Deathstroke.
That'd be sweet.
That's what it would have been. Like, but with honestly almost even like more intense action. Like it would have been super awesome. Or like Dredd, the Carl Urban Dredd, obviously, but Deathstroke. That's what they were trying to do. And like he confirms that like him and Gareth Evans were trying to get it done, and now that's canceled too. So I hope that someday that still happens. Like that would be amazing to me. But those were just little things. It was just kind of I don't know, just throw away a little like random. Maybe I'm reading too much into it. It was just like a little ET article, but I found those little 3 tidbits, as I said numerous times now, interesting. So before we move on, did you guys want to add anything to that?
No, I think it would be sweet if they would have done that Deathstroke movie, though, like you were talking about.
I want that movie so bad.
Like a really gritty, intense... Because, yeah, he's basically like a super soldier kind of person, So it's like John Wick on steroids, quite literally.
Yeah.
And, that'd be sick.
Well, it would have been awesome. Because, even in... There was most recent... Because they could have done a lot of things with it. Like, as far as, like, backstory. They could have played with it. They could have... Because Deathstroke doesn't have any like one true origin like Bruce Wayne does,
Yeah,
like
it's not like his parents.
Yeah. Like, you can do whatever you want. Like you could just copy John Wick and just say like his wife was killed or something, or and then his dog was killed, and that starts it. Like it doesn't matter. Like the whatever just starts it is whatever. Like the whole thing would be there, kind of like Godzilla versus Kong. Is like we're there to watch the monsters fight. I don't care how you get there. It'd be the same with this movie. Like, just show Deathstroke whooping some ass, man.
Right.
Like, well, yeah, I would like a good story, but I don't know. I'm really bummed about that. Do you have anything you want to add, John? Because that's pretty much all I had with it.
Well, I was just gonna say, Joe Maganelli, right? Is that how you pronounce it?
Maganellio.
He's been Maganellio. Sorry,
Manganiello.
I apologize, Mr. Maganellio.
It's a name.
He's been making the rounds like on a lot. He's been doing a lot of different interviews, obviously, with Zack Snyder's Justice League coming out and stuff. And he did another one just recently where he said that in the Batman movie that they were supposed to do, that he was supposed to do in Ben's Batman movie, he actually said that Batgirl was supposed to make an appearance in that movie, which I found really interesting. There was something about like at one point he's fighting Batman and he gets the upper hand on Batman, and Batgirl shows up to help out Batman because he's never faced anybody like Deathstroke before. So he's been dropping these little tidbits all over the place, which I really appreciate and find interesting, and just makes me want to see those stories told even more. I will say with the Justice League clip, the Injustice League or the Legion of Doom teaser at the end of it, makes sense to me that he would have been brought back to film something. I mean, while I think probably most people, most logical people, hopefully people in the studio that watched that movie before it came out, realized that there probably wasn't going to be the opportunity for a sequel, that the box office numbers weren't going to be great. I also feel like when they invest that much time and that much money into building that universe, that they probably wanted to leave a door open at least in case they had completely misread the audience and people for some reason really did enjoy the Justice take of Justice League and it ended up like if that movie had made like $1.5 billion somehow magically, if the world had a spontaneous lobotomy and they all loved it, then they would have gone forward. They would have needed something to go forward with the sequel for, and that would have kind of set the stage for that nicely. So it's not surprising they threw something at the end. As it turns out, it's a nothing thing that will never result in anything. So it is what it is.
If Justice League would have made $1 billion, we would have had Justice League 2 by now. For sure.
Oh yeah,
like no question. So yeah, it obviously makes sense that even if they had no intention to it, it'd probably be better to leave a door open than to just wrap it all up for sure. So, but that is interesting too with the Batgirl thing, because it kind of makes sense, because for the longest time, Joss Whedon was developing a Batgirl solo movie. So I'm wondering if that was like the connection, because the Ben Affleck he was obviously brought on and that discussion was happening shortly after and during the Justice League time period. So then that's when Ben's movie was still tentatively moving forward. That's when Deathstroke was there and all that stuff. So it makes sense. It probably would have been the same Batgirl, I imagine. So that's kind of cool. They were actually doing the thing where they were thinking about connecting things in a logical way. Like even then, they actually tried right there,
connecting the dots.
That's kind of nice.
And I'll also say this too: like when you watch, hearing Joe say that the scene that's in Snyder's cut is to directly set up his involvement in the Batman movie, which clearly it is, and then you also see the scenes with Aquaman and Willem Dafoe, and the talk about his brother and he needs to go back and take care of his brother, and then you see how well that dovetails into what played out in the Aquaman movie and James Wan's Aquaman movie. I mean, clearly Zack Snyder, as much as he was making the movie for himself, was also doing what Warner Brothers wanted and needed done, which is set the stage for these characters to go off to their own movie. I mean, there are direct plot points and storylines that were picked up and followed through in the individual movies. So he really did layer the movie with all these other things that needed to be done for the building of the universe that they were doing.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I just hope Joe can get this Deathstroke movie made, because Joe's one of us. I'd love to be able to have Joe on the show one day. That'd be sweet. He's got a huge he runs like the most like Hollywood famous D&D game. Like Vince Vaughn plays D&D with him. Who else? Dan and Dave, like Dan and Dave Weiss from like Game of Thrones. They're on his D&D campaign. Like he's just a cool ass dude. He wrote a D&D book with Sam Witwer. He's an interesting guy. He's a cool ass dude. He listens to metal and he's got his home gym just like I do. Like, what's up?
You listen to metal?
Yeah. No. Like, when I work out.
Yeah, I was gonna say like not as much as we used to.
I don't listen. Like I listen to EDM most of the time, just when I'm out and about doing stuff in my everyday world. But if I'm working out, I don't like.
You want something intense.
Yeah, I don't like listening to that. I got to listen to the music, the same music I listened to back in high school.
Exactly, and it's literally the same music.
Literally,
back in high school.
All those bands have progressed in their lives, and they.
I haven't heard any of the new albums or anything.
Yeah, I don't know any of the songs. I don't even know
Whitechapel. Whitechapel's really good. Their new album's great.
I still only listen to the first 2 Whitechapel albums.
You gotta check out that new.
I listened to I Killed the Prom Queen has had like 2 different singers, and I still only listen to Music for the Recently Deceased with Ed Butcher.
He liked one of my pictures on Instagram.
I know. I talked to Ed Butcher at one point in time. Ed Butcher's a nice dude, and it's the only one I listen to. He's like my favorite vocalist, so it's the only one I listen to still to this day. Parkway Drive, same way. Only the first 2 albums. Like, that's it. Like nothing else.
There's later.
Suicide Silence, same way. 2 albums. But unfortunately, R.I.P. Mitch Lucker. So I don't even know what they're up to anymore. Also, a very nice guy. Good group of guys. We hung out with him a couple times.
Yeah.
But either way,